Well, welcome. So we are getting towards the end of this semester, so yay! Anyway, we're going to talk about the Civil War today. So the Civil War lasts from 1861 to 1865. It will start basically with the secession of the southern states and the Union trying to protect unity and the Union in general. So anyway, let's proceed forward. Maybe we will proceed forward. There we go. All right, so this is one of the battle sites during the Civil War. So this was taken, obviously, after the battle, and you can see the dead people on the ground. You can see it's clearly an agricultural community from the house and the fencing and stuff like that. So this is going to be the first time so we really have photographs of war. And so you will have, nowhere near the amount of photographs you've got for later wars, but you will have a lot of photographs for the Civil War that are taken by kind of budding Civil War. You know, you're not going to see a lot of action photos because photos at this time took a long time to take. So, but you will see battlefields and things like that, and these will get out to the American public. They'll be printed in newspapers and things like that. Okay. So when Abraham Lincoln gets elected in November of 1860, the southern states are going to fear that he is going to want to end slavery, and that is going to be a consequence of the Lincoln presidency. So December of 1860, South Carolina secedes. It is the first state. Like I said, Lincoln has not even taken office yet, and they are already seceding. Fire eaters in the Deep South called on their states to hold conventions to consider following South Carolina. So unlike the nullification crisis, South Carolina is going to get some people to support them now. Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas are going to follow by February, and they will all become part of what is going to become the Confederate States of America. Jefferson Davis will be the president. Buchanan, who is the president at the time, doesn't really do anything about it. He claims the federal government lacks authority to restore the Union by force. So if they had waited until Lincoln had been president to do this, I think it would have played out differently. But Buchanan doesn't believe that the government can really do anything about it. So he does nothing. The president is going to ask Congress to act. So even though he doesn't do anything, he's going to ask Congress to do it. You have Senator Crittenden from Kentucky is going to propose the Crittenden Compromise. So he's going to offer up a constitutional amendment to protect slavery from government interference where it already exists. That part does get approved. Expand the Missouri Compromise line to the California border. Banning slavery north of the line but allowing it to the south. This is rejected by Republicans who feared it would unleash new imperialist adventures by pro-slavery forces to basically gain land beyond the boundaries, such as Cuba. Lincoln's inaugural address in March of 1861 calls the Union perpetual and secession illegal. So what you must understand about Lincoln is a pretty strict constitutionalist. He does not believe that the states have the right to secede from the Union. There's nothing in the Constitution with provisions of if you don't like it after you've joined it, that you can leave. So he doesn't think they have the right to do it. And the war will begin with the South kind of fighting for their way of life to remain the way it is. But the North will be fighting to maintain the Union. It will not be a fight for abolition yet. That will come later. Initially, it is a fight to preserve the Union. That flag right there is the Alabama secession flag. You've got the Goddess of Liberty at the center. She's holding a flag with a single star that reflects Alabama's status as an independent republic. The Goddess of Liberty is a traditional American symbol, often used in images that symbolize America. So these states, they really just believed that they were now independent states, and they will come together, like I said, into the Confederate States. Okay, so you wonder, maybe you're thinking, who all does slavery really affect? So in your original Confederate states, those states I just labeled in the South, 38% of whites who are members of slave-owning families and 47% of the population who are slaves. So the number of people who are slaves is larger than the number of people who own slaves. Your Confederate border states, so these are going to be places like Virginia, 24% slave owning, 32% slaves. And then your Union border states, places like Kentucky, 14% slave owning, 15% slaves. So that number is much closer. That state will choose to stick with the Union, and slavery will be protected there until the end of the Civil War when the amendment comes through. Okay, so Northerners are going to join the effort pretty quickly. Ohio is asked to provide 13 regiments. They supplied 20. The Northern Democrats supported Lincoln, including Stephen Douglas, who we had the Lincoln-Douglas debates and all the conflict in Illinois between the two. But he will support Lincoln as well. Lincoln's going to call for 75,000 militiamen to serve for 90 days. Lincoln does not believe this is going to be a war that will take 4 years. He thinks that they're going to show a little bit of strength, and the South will fold and rejoin the Union, and life will go on in its merry little way. That is unfortunately not what happens. So you have your middle and your border states, and their decisions become kind of crucial. The 8 border states account for 2/3 of the whites in the slaveholding states. Virginia is going to side with the Confederacy. So does Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina. Northwestern Virginia, Yemen farmers are going to break away, and they are going to become part of the Union. So that is where you get West Virginia. If you ever wondered how Virginia and West Virginia came about, this is what happens during the Civil War. There's the group of people who do not want to break off from the United States, and that becomes West Virginia in 1863. Delaware and Missouri are going to side with the Union. Maryland is occupied and secured by Unionists who seized the state government, so they basically didn't have a choice. They're part of the Union. And negotiation is going to keep Kentucky in the Union. So you can see on this map right here, the ones with the kind of slashed lines are your northern border states that have slavery but are going to keep as part of the Union. They will not remove themselves from the Union. Okay. So, Lincoln's going to reject General Winfield Scott's strategy of peaceful persuasion through economic sanctions and a naval blockade. Instead, he insists on an aggressive military campaign to restore the Union. He hoped a quick strike against the Confederates at Richmond would end the rebellion. Again, that doesn't happen. But there's an attack at Manassas, which is also called Bull Run, the Battle of Bull Run. So, the northern states name battles by the name of the state, and the southern states name their battles by landmarks. I think I got that correct. It may be the other way around, but that's why sometimes it'll be 2 different names, because the North will call it one thing and the South will call it something else. So this is going to lead to a panic among the Union soldiers. They are going to retreat. The Union enlists 1 million more men to serve for 3 years in the new Army of the Potomac. 1862, General McClellan is going to launch a major assault. The Confederates are going to fight back, and war will continue, and Richmond is still secure for the Confederacy. Confederate Army General Lee, he goes on the offensive. So what you must understand about General Lee is he was from Virginia, and he was part of the United States Army, and he actually resigned from the United States Army to join the Confederate States. And the reason he does this is not because he has a strong belief in slavery or because he thinks this is the way to go and the South is right. He does it because his family believes that, his wife believes that, and he wants to be able to go home to his family when all is said and done, and so he goes with the Confederates. And that's pretty much the entire reason he leaves the United States Army. Let's see. You have Union troops in the Second Battle of Bull Run in 1862. They're going to head north into western Maryland. You'll have delays on the Union side, which is going to keep Lee moving towards Antietam Creek in Maryland. So if you have ever seen Glory, the battle at the very beginning is the Battle of Antietam. It is the bloodiest battle in U.S. military history. The bloodiest day, I'm sorry, not the battle, just the bloodiest day. It's a one-day thing. Horrible Union casualties and savage warfare. It happens on September 17th, 1862. You have 4,800 dead, 18,500 wounded, 3,000 of those whom later die. Because of Lee's retreat, Lincoln's going to claim a victory, but the problems are going to continue. Honestly, when you lose that many people and you have that much casualty and that much blood spilled, nobody wins. But the Union will claim that as a victory. The Union's going to have success in the Midwest, gaining the Tennessee and Mississippi rivers, which is going to be important because remember, that's the way we travel and ship things. And they'll cut off Confederate ability to do that. Union naval forces commanded by David G. Farragut struck the Confederacy from the Gulf of Mexico, captured the South's financial center and largest city, New Orleans. They took control of 1,500 plantations and 50,000 slaves. Workers in some plantations looted their owners' mansions. Others refused to labor unless they were paid wages. Union victories significantly undermined the Confederate strength in the Mississippi River Valley. So that is going to get us through just this kind of first year and through the Battle of Antietam and whatnot. Hit play on the next one to hear the continued story of the Civil War. So I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, and I will see or speak to you soon.